Okay, I think I'm ready now. So thanks again for your patience. Again, this is Scott Sharp. I'm a forecaster here at the Weather Service office located here at Centennial Campus in Raleigh. And we'll get started with the weekly briefing here. And this will cover the period up through Sunday, July 1st. This week's weather pattern, we have a stalled, I hate to call it a cold front, but we have a stalled surface boundary that's going to be drifting very slowly southward across the region this afternoon and this evening, where it'll eventually stall near the South Carolina border, probably closer to sunset or so. Aloft, there's a series of up-level disturbances, and as the disturbances move across the region, and we have one coming over during prime heating this afternoon, it should fire up some pretty decent coverage of showers and thunderstorms across the region. And the way the wind field is, which is kind of unusual this time of year, usually our winds are kind of weaker aloft this time of year, but we have enhanced winds just above a few thousand feet above the surface. And these enhanced winds, along with the available instability, is going to give us an atmosphere very conducive to development of some organized convection, mainly in the form of what's called a bow echo, or it's going to be like a cluster of thunderstorms that's going to bow out a little bit. And usually there's a lot of, you can get some pretty decent winds out of these kind of bow echoes. And so we're anticipating that kind of coverage later on this afternoon, this evening. And right now that threat appears to be highest across the southern counties. So that would also be our best rain threat for the next 24 to 48 hours with this frontal system. You can see by the middle of next week, by the middle of the week, by Wednesday, the front has moved offshore a little bit. We're going to get a little bit of a high pressure building in as we get towards the end of the week. And that's going to be a very warm high. If you've got plans to travel northward in places like DC, Philadelphia, up to New York, and even to Boston, they're going to get some very extreme heat up there by the end of the week into the weekend with temperatures well into the 90s. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see a few places get near 100 degrees across parts of southern New England and the northern mid-Atlantic states. Here, we'll be hot, but not as hot as our neighbors up to the north. And the high will also bring us some dry weather as well. Again, take a look. Our severe weather threat looks like pretty much the southwest half of the forecast region of central North Carolina is in a slight risk for this afternoon and this evening. The timing of this right now appears to be late afternoon. I think most areas will probably not see that much convective activity until around 4 o'clock or so. I can't rule out a possibility of a few storms around the Triad regions beginning as early as 2 or 3, but I think the majority of the storms will start to fire up and intensify in that 4 to 6 p.m. time frame and progress to the east-southeast across parts of the southern Piedmont and Sandhills. You can see the severe outlook for tomorrow. We're just in general thunder. And mainly, that's going to be mainly across our far western and southern periphery. I think the air mass over the majority of central North Carolina is going to be too stable for any kind of thunderstorm activity. And then on Wednesday, we're back into our normal scattered diurnal summertime pattern of afternoon buildups with a few pop-up showers and storms across the area. But what's typical for this time of year, the wind shear won't be all that great. So therefore, we're not expecting any severe storms for Wednesday. So again, today will probably be our best threat for severe weather for the next 7 days. And again, it's going to be a little unusual just because it's not going to be the afternoon pop-ups that we usually see this time of year. This will be some organized convection. And with this organized convection, there will be a possibility of some damaging straight-line winds. In fact, what to expect from this, again, they'll be scattered in nature, but there will be some severe storms. Again, the primary threat is going to be damaging straight-line winds. I can't rule out the possibility of a few places getting hail to the size of corridors or ping pong balls. Those will be the storms that have the longest and most intense updrafts. And that possibility will probably be closer to the South Carolina border. But again, though, most of the storms, though, will have a potential to produce some damaging straight-line winds. Again, the threat is greatest south of Highway 64. So pretty much if you drew a line from Lexington to Raleigh to Wilson, along and south of that line will be the threat area. And I will say for the triad and triangle regions, the storms will be, here and there, be kind of random with the wind damage, it looks like. Your better chances of seeing consistent wind damage with the storms will probably be further south. If you do a line from Albemarle to maybe Lillington to maybe around Goldsboro to south of Goldsboro, along and south of that line. So if you're in the counties that border the South Carolina border, you have a pretty decent threat for seeing some storms producing damaging winds. And again, that time frames can be between 4 p.m. and midnight. The latest model guidance that's been coming into the office here since 8 o'clock this morning is showing it's coming into actually pretty good agreement now and showing the best threat for this wind event with the thunderstorms in that 4 p.m. to maybe 10 p.m. time frame. So it looks like hopefully we can get this stuff out of here prior to midnight. So then again, the counties, if you're like in Stanley County, Anson, Richmond, Montgomery, over towards Moore and Lee, over towards Hoke and Scotland, and over towards Cumberland, that area through there, I think your prime time for severe weather is going to be in that 4 p.m. to 9 or 10 p.m. time frame. And then we'll look at the precipitation. Again, if you see for today, there's a pretty nice swath of some heavy rainfall occurring from near or just south of the Triad down across the southern Piedmont into the Sandhills. Because of these storms, so there'll be more than one or two in these clusters. You could get some pretty decent rainfall in a short period of time. Looks like much of the area will probably see anywhere from 1 to possibly as much as 2 inches by the time it's all said and done by Tuesday afternoon, it looks like. And then as we go forward from midweek onward, we do dry out, and the chances for storms will become fewer in number. So again, it looks like today and tomorrow will be our best chance for rainfall. In fact, let's take a look at it a little bit more extensively. During the last 3 days or so, most of the rainfall has been pretty much occurring along into the east of I-95. And so you can see we had some really decent rainfall here across parts of Cumberland and Sampson County yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, and more so up here across the northern coastal plain. Most of that occurred Friday afternoon and evening and Saturday afternoon and evening. But this area down and through here across Cumberland and Sampson counties, this is provided by service hydrologist Mike Moneypenny. This is showing a pretty good swath of 1 to as much as 2 to 2.5 inches that fell across this area during the last 24 hours. So this would be the area we'll probably need to really watch extensively for the possibility of some isolated flooding later on tonight. These storms do track repeatedly across the same locations. So areas around Fayetteville, people who live near Cross Creek will need to monitor those water levels a little bit if we do get those storms that come across repeatedly across the same location for a few hours later on this evening. Again, the soil type down here is sandy, so it can take some water. But again, though, we could see as much as 1 to 2 inches in a short period of time with some of these stronger storms. Here across the southern Piedmont, the rainfall has been a little bit more sparse here in the last 3 days or so we can take some water there. But again, though, even where you get those intense downpours, there will be some extensive ponding of water on the roadways. So places of the southern Piedmont will need to watch out for, motorists there will need to watch out for some ponding of the roadways when the storms are occurring. Taking a look at the tropics. Fortunately, the tropics are kind of quiet right now here across our part of the Atlantic Basin. From yesterday's discussion from the Tropical Prediction Center, there are a few waves coming off the African coast, but conditions out here across the tropical Atlantic are pretty hostile to any kind of development. The winds are kind of strong, and the sea surface temperatures are not quite up to what they want them to be for this time of year. So it looks like anything that comes off the African coast right now, it's not going to generate anything worthy of watching here for the next few days or so. So right now the tropics will be quiet, and hopefully it'll stay that way for a while. And then take a look ahead, again, with that big area of high pressure to our north by the end of the week. Again, very hot temperatures across parts of the Great Lakes into New England, the northern mid-Atlantic. Here we'll be on the periphery of that big high dome. And so we'll see temperatures in the 90s for sure. But I think the more extreme heat will be areas from the Midwest, the lower Great Lakes into parts of New England. And again, our rain chances are pretty close to normal for this time of year, maybe a little bit above normal, but again, usually with a typical summertime pattern, it's all about hit and miss. And then finally, the summary here, again, our best chance for active weather will be this afternoon and tonight, especially for areas south of 64. The cooler temperatures for Tuesday, we'll have a lot of cloud cover tomorrow and some spotty light rain, and we could see temperatures as much as 10 to 15 degrees below normal tomorrow across a large part of central North Carolina. So here, for places like the Triad and the Triangle, there's a good possibility that temperatures tomorrow afternoon will only be in the 70s. And if it rains for a good part of the morning to the afternoon, there's a possibility we can see only temperatures in the lower 70s. The warmer temperatures will stay closer to the southern Piedmont, where temperatures will still be in the 80s, it looks like. The respite from the heat, though, will be brief, though, because we're expecting hot and humid conditions to return by the end of the week, with temperatures solidly in the 90s probably by Thursday and Friday. And along with that, with the humidity, we'll see heat indices once again 100 to 105 degrees. Unfortunately, the tropics will be quiet, and hopefully it'll be that way through the next week or so. And that is it for the weekly briefing. Are there any questions? I see there is one. No questions yet. I'll stay here just a few more minutes here if we get any questions or not. But again, though, for the emergency managers in the southern part of the county, the southern part of the central North Carolina, this will be a little unusual event we're seeing. Usually this time of year, we have the pop-up thunderstorms. But again, these storms here will be organized. They'll be organized into lines of convection. And they'll move pretty good. They'll probably be moving in 30, 35 miles an hour to the east-southeast. And they'll have a potential to produce some pretty decent damaging winds. So don't expect to see a tree down here and there. You'll probably see multiple trees down, and you could see also power lines down as well. So it may be a good idea, or just keep in the back of your mind, to probably have some augmented staffing in your 911 centers for late this afternoon and this evening. So no questions yet.